Okay, and also, Sudhanshu, I've created a free trial subscription in Azure, so we can start
Mm-hmm.
provisioning resources in that free trial subscription. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just show
Okay.
you how to provision a virtual machine. That is through Azure portal. Like I said yesterday,
Okay.
we have multiple ways to provision any resource in Azure. So you can
Mm-hmm.
provision through Azure portal, you can provision through Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, and some third-party tools like Terraform, ARM templates, okay, and through Jenkins. So there are multiple ways to provision Azure resources. So manual process is through Azure portal. So we'll just start with manual process only, and then going forward, we'll use Azure PowerShell to create resources and also Terraform configuration scripts.
Okay.
Okay. So just to give a brief idea of Azure, Amit, I just wanted to know something from your end as well. So what do you mean about cloud? So just give me two words. That's it. What do you mean about cloud?
I think the shared infrastructure or as a service that we can use.
Right. Absolutely correct. So that is one of the benefit where customer will get if they wanted to use Azure cloud or any other cloud in market. Just to give an overview, we before cloud, so each and every organization, they used to have their own data centers, right? So own data centers, so they have to take care of all physical servers, and also if they wanted to go on a virtual server, so they have to install virtualization and they have to install Azure virtual the virtual machines on a physical servers as well. So at that point of time, the maintenance will play a major role because they have to maintain their own infrastructure and also manpower. So here, no need to buy a physical server. If you want to have one service, we'll just talk about virtual machine. So simply get a subscription from Azure. Subscription is just like getting a postpaid connection or any other connection in market. So you'll have a subscription ID which will be associated to your name, and that based upon your subscription ID, billing will get generated. Okay. So by using that subscription ID, you can start provisioning resources and you can use as per your requirement. Like if you wanted to use a virtual machine only for 2 hours, you have to pay only 2 hours charges, not for the complete day or not for the complete month. But in our own infrastructure, if you buy a physical server, if you use for 1 hour, you have to pay the complete amount. So if you are using for 365 days, then also you have to pay the full amount. But in Azure, it's like a shared infrastructure and also cost efficient. Okay, you can use resources as per your requirement. That's it. Okay, and the second part is like security, because Azure has provided some security where you have to configure that security in your own infrastructure as well. Network, security, and monitoring. So these kind of features which Azure provided to the customer. So they will provide to the customers. Okay. So let me share my screen. I'll show you how Azure portal looks like.
Sure.
Just let me know. So once you are able to see my screen, I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Yes, I can
For
see.
me it is
No.
visible.
Perfect. Absolutely. Okay. So this is the URL to access Azure portal. uh, Only from this portal you can manage, you can provision, you can delete any resource in Azure, and this portal will be assigned to you, and you'll have your subscription ID. So once you log into this portal, let me save it. Okay. Okay. So this is Azure portal. So from here you can start creating resources in your subscription. Okay. So I'll
Okay.
just go through the subscriptions, because this is very important before starting provisioning resources or before you provision resources. So this is the subscription ID. Okay, so based upon this subscription ID, the billing will get generated, and all your resources will be charged as per the subscription ID only. Okay, so that your billing will be pay as you go, and you can the bill will get generated on a monthly basis. So it will be from 1 to 30 or 1 to 31 of each and every month. Okay, so your invoice will get generated. So as per your resource usage, and you have to pay maybe through your credit card or maybe through some internet banking. So that is the process how the billing part will be done from customer to the Microsoft Azure. Okay, so before provisioning Azure virtual machine in Azure portal, so I'll just explain you how a virtual machine will reside on a physical server. Okay, let's talk about our own infrastructure for an organization. So an organization A is having their own data center. So if they wanted to go for 10 servers, okay, so they will get a physical servers. So they will get 10 physical servers, and they'll start installing some applications or maybe some software where users or business users will be using that physical servers. So going forward, maybe after 6 months or maybe after 1 year, they are getting some request to provision few more servers or few more machines. Okay, at that point of time, they have to buy another physical server because they have only 10 physical servers, right? So at that point of time, if they wanted to virtualize if they wanted to introduce a virtualization in physical servers, so in market we have VMware. I think you are aware of VMware and Hyper-V, right? Amit and Sudhanshu? VMware and Hyper-V.
Yes,
Are you aware of
VMware.
virtualization?
Yeah,
No,
VMware.
Yes.
VMware, you are aware of it, right? So VMware is a third-party tool, and Hyper-V is a product which has been introduced by Microsoft only. Hyper-V is a Microsoft product. Okay, Hyper-V will act same like VMware only. Okay, so on a physical server, there is a virtualization which is Hyper-V. Okay, you have to install Hyper-V on a physical server. On top of virtualization, which is Hyper-V, you can start provisioning virtual machine as per your requirement. Okay, like I'll give you one example. If you have a physical server of 16 CPU, okay, and 32 GB of RAM, there is a physical server of 16 CPU and 32 GB of RAM. On that physical server, you can install Hyper-V, okay, and you can start using those 16 CPU and 32 GB of RAM to your virtual machine. Okay. So that means if you have a physical server, that complete 16 CPU is not utilized, right? 16 CPU is not utilized. So you have very minimal
16 CPU means,
very minimal.
so Rajesh, 16 CPU means you are saying 16 machines, 16 different machines, separate machines, physical.
16 CPU cores. No, 16 CPU cores. CPU core. Okay.
16 CPU core.
16 CPU core.
Like we have dual core configurations.
That's the configuration you are saying, right?
Yes, configuration. I'm talking about configuration. So I'll just show you the configuration
for one single
of
machine.
this virtual machine. Yes, that is correct. For one single virtual machine, for one single physical machine, we have 60 CPU cores and 32 GB of RAM. So on this server, if you see, there are 16 GB of RAM. Okay, if you see there are 16 CPU of RAM, and if you see the processor, it is CPU. Okay, this is the speed of the CPU, which is 2.30 gigahertz to 2.20 gigahertz. Okay, and this CPU, this virtual machine is having, I'll show you, 4 virtual CPU. That means 4 CPU cores. Okay, 4 cores and 16 GB of RAM. Okay, currently let's assume this is a physical server. Okay, so this is a physical server. On a physical server, I have 4 CPUs and 16 GB of RAM. Okay, so currently 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM is not utilized. Okay, what I can do, I'll install Hyper-V on this physical server. Okay, and then I'll start using unutilized CPU cores and unutilized GB of RAM, which is RAM, to my virtual machines. That means out of 4 CPU, I'll take out 1 CPU and assign to one virtual machine, and out of 16 GB of RAM, I'll take off 2 GB and I'll assign to the virtual machine. That is not manual actually, so it is automated. So based upon your usage, your CPU will be picked from physical server and it will assign to the virtual machine.
So it will be picked automatically, or that we need to mention like how much
no, it
RAM
will be
or
automatically, but while configuring virtual machine, you have to give 2 CPU and some 8 GB of RAM. So 2 CPU will be used for that virtual machine, will be allocated to that virtual machine, and 8 GB of RAM will be allocated to that virtual machine. So it won't use more than 2 CPU and it won't use more than 8 GB of RAM. It will be less than 8 GB and two cores only. It won't use. Anyhow, you have 2 CPU which is assigned to your physical server, but still it won't use the other 2 CPU which is not allocated to that virtual machine. So here, no need to buy another physical server, right? I already have 10 physical server with 8 CPU and 16 GB of RAM. So what I'm doing, I'm just installing an hypervisor which is Hyper-V, and then I'll start provisioning a virtual machine on top of that physical servers, and then I'll start using the CPU and RAM from that physical server to the virtual machine only. So no need to buy another physical server. This is the cost efficient only, right? So in the same way, just let me know if you have any doubts. If you have any confusion, just let me know. I think you got this point, right? How virtualization will work and what is the benefit by provisioning a virtual machine on a physical server.
Yes, Rajesh, got it.
Yes.
You got it, right? Absolutely right. So in the same way, Microsoft Azure also has introduced same infrastructure. Like they'll be having a physical servers. On physical servers, they have their own hypervisor or virtualization, which is Hyper-V, which is very lightweight. Okay, and if you provision a virtual machine, it will provision on a physical server, which is there in Azure region, in Azure data center.
Okay.
Okay, so currently I have assigned 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM. So 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM will be picked from one physical server, and it will start using these 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM. It won't use more than use more than 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM. This is a deadline actually. So this is the maximum capacity where this virtual machine can use. Okay.
So four CPU, as you are saying, 4 CPU. So it means 4 virtual machines, right?
Not 4 virtual machines. It's 4 cores actually. So you know dual core, right? Dual core is 2 CPU. Okay.
Okay. Dual core is 2
CPU, and quad core is 4 CPU, and octa core is 8 CPU. So in our mobile also we have octa core processor and quad core processor. So in the same way, 8 cores and 4 cores.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, just like our mobile only.
Okay.
Okay. So this is one of test virtual machine which I have created. So currently we logged into this VM and we are using this virtual machine. Okay, so let me show you how to create a virtual machine.
Rajesh, before that, like I saw like there is a subscription you have created. So if you can just tell us like how you have created a subscription, like do we need to create an account with Microsoft and then the subscription will be created, or like we need to do it for this?
Subscription, yes, you can create a subscription, and the subscription will be 30 days of free trial. So you will get 13,300 INR. So that 13,300 INR, you can use it for Azure resources, only for testing purpose. And to create Azure subscription, you should have Outlook.com or maybe Hotmail.com. So these are the 2 email IDs which you have to create. Okay, you can use another email IDs as well, on organization email IDs, and then you have to use one credit card. Okay, and credit card, you should have a valid mobile number where you will get an OTP, and you have to authenticate that credit card by using some credentials. I'll show you.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll just give you owner access on this subscription. So owner access in the sense you can create a virtual machine, or you can create any other resources, and also you can delete resources. You can manage everything in the subscription.
Okay.
Okay, you can provide permission to other users as well. Okay. Azure free account. It's already logged in actually, so maybe I need to use incognito mode. Okay, first you have to give one email ID. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll use the same email ID only. It should be a Microsoft email ID. 073.
It should be our personal or it should be official.
Right. Okay.
No, email ID should be personal or official.
You can have personal and official as well. No problem about that.
Okay, any okay.
Official also you can use, but I would recommend you can, because as this is a free trial, right? You can use your personal email ID only.
Personal email. Okay.
Personal email ID only. No need to use an official email ID. Okay, it says like it's already I have a Azure account which is associated to this email ID. Okay, so if I have any other Outlook or Hotmail email ID from your end, then I can just show you how to create it. So even you can just give a try. I'll just share you this link to how to create a Azure free account. So you just have to provide your credentials, username and the password. So once that is done, you have to provide a credit card number and the CVV and the expiry date, everything, all your credentials and authentication. So once that is done, you'll get an OTP. So 2 rupees will be deducted from your credit card account, and after some time, that 2 rupees they will revert back to your account. So that is just to authentication purpose actually, because there are many cases that if they are not authenticating users, so they can do some fraud in Azure infrastructure and they can hack to other virtual machines as well, right? So in order to avoid that, they wanted to authenticate that particular person. Even you have to provide your PAN number as well. Okay, so all these details, but it won't upgrade until you confirm, because after 30 days it will automatically disable your subscription. And if you wanted to continue the same subscription, you have to log into your subscription and then you have to enable it, because once 30 days is completed, it will get disabled completely. So you cannot manage your resources, you cannot delete, you cannot create, you cannot do anything in your subscription. It will be in disabled status only. Okay, if you wanted to enable, log in, enable, and once that is done, it will start billing from your credit card, because your credit card is associated to this subscription, right? So the billing will be started.
So Rajesh, do we need to pay at that time after 30 days?
Absolutely. You have to pay as per your usage. So if you have a virtual machine, see, currently you have a virtual machine, right? You see, there is a virtual machine in this subscription. Okay, so currently this is a running status. Okay, so if I go to my virtual machine and if I go to size, okay, this you can see 10,228 rupees. This is cost per 1 month. This is an estimated one.
Okay.
But this will be charged as per the hourly basis only. So you can just this amount will be pro rata basis on an hourly basis, and it will be around 13 rupees or 14 rupees per hour. Okay, so if you use this virtual machine only for 2 hours, then you will charge only 26 rupees or maybe 30 rupees, not more than that.
Okay.
Okay, so in order to avoid cost, we can stop and deallocate this virtual machine. So once your job is done on this virtual machine, if you feel that no users are contacting this virtual machine, so we have to simply stop this virtual machine. That's it. So once you stop this your virtual machine, the billing on this virtual machine will be paused.
Okay.
Only on this virtual machine, because the reason why Microsoft will not charge is your 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM will be removed from this virtual machine. You got it right. So this 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM, Microsoft Azure will take and it will assign to other virtual machine which is in queue. Again, after 1 day or maybe after 2 days, yeah. Please, Amit, go ahead.
So Rajesh, what about the credits that we got around 13,000? You said that we will get once we create our account, right?
Yes, 13,300.
So after 30 days.
Remaining.
So after 30 days, so So the bill will be adjusted with the 13,000. Is that okay? Is that correct?
No. It's not like that actually. So this is the limit. So the maximum limit what you can use for this subscription is 13,300. Assume you have only
Okay.
one virtual machine and you are using only one virtual machine for all 30 days, and your charge would be around 10,000 rupees, right? So the remaining amount, which is 3,300 rupees, will be collapsed. It won't carry forward to your credit
Okay.
card, or you cannot use that 3,000 rupees. It's like there are two conditions. One is you have to complete your free trial subscription within 30 days. Else, if this 13,300 is completed within 10 days, you are done. That's it. We cannot create another virtual machine on this on this subscription.
Okay.
13,300 is a credit which Azure has provided to all the customers. Okay, and the time is 30 days. If you are using that 13,300 for 30 days, it's fine. If you are not using that 13,300, it will collapse. So if you are using that 13,300 in 10 days, and after 10 days, you'll have your subscription enabled for another 20 days, but you won't be able to create any resources because your credit got lost, right? Your subscription will be in enable status, but you won't be able to create any resources. You can manage
So
your
in that case,
existing
like
resources.
so in that case, what else we can do? Like if we
Pay as
utilized
you
all the
go.
13,300, pay as you go. Okay.
Hmm.
If you want to provision any resources, then you have to pay and accordingly.
Absolutely. So if you wanted to provision any other resource, you have to
Mm-hmm.
upgrade the subscription from free trial to pay as you go. And
Uh-huh.
also, you cannot start your virtual machine on
Okay.
existing virtual machine, because if you wanted to start your virtual machine, billing will generate, right? So it has to consume some amount, maybe 10 rupees or 20 rupees, but 20 rupees is not available in your credit, right? So it won't start the virtual machine as well. So simply you can go and see the settings and maybe some resources, but you won't be able to start this virtual machine, and you won't be able to create any
Mm-hmm.
virtual machine as well. But you can delete your existing virtual machine because you have a free trial till 30 days.
Okay. Okay.
Got it, right? Any
Yeah.
doubts, please let me know. I
Sure.
think subscription point of view, it's clear, right?
Yes, subscription point of view is clear. So you just share the link so that I'll try like
Hmm.
to create my own subscription using my Hotmail or.
Absolutely. Absolutely, but I would recommend not to create now because, Sudhanshu, this subscription we can use it. So we can use this
Okay.
subscription for multiple users. So if I provide you an owner permission, I'll
Uh-huh.
just provide you now only. I'll just provide you now.
Okay.
If you wanted to have, you can just open from your end as well.
Mm-hmm.
Subscription, okay, access control, role assignment,
Role management.
owner.
Role is,
Okay. Can you share me your email ID? Okay, I think I have it right.
so yeah, so the Anshu one
Check.
triple seven at SUDHNSHU 1777
1777 at gmail.com,
at
right?
right.
And Ajay, yours?
Amit.
Amit
Sorry,
dot
Amit.
Sarathe. Amit
Amit
dot
dot S
Sarathe.
A S A
Rathe.
T
Rathe.
H E. Okay.
At the rate
At Gmail.
outlook.com.
Okay,
At
Outlook.
the rate outlook.com.
Okay, this is your personal account only, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it's done. Okay. So now you can use
Okay.
this link, which is portal.azure.com. Okay, so once you enter this link in any browser, so it will ask you to put your
Mm-hmm.
credentials. You have to use this email ID. So once you use this email ID, so you will be able to see this subscription, this resource group as well, because you have owner permission on this subscription, right? So you will be able to see these two resource group as well. So you can manage. So you can connect to this virtual machine from your laptop and from your desktop as well. So you can delete, you can create, you can manage all existing resources as well, because you are owner of the subscription. Owner will have full control on your subscription, on any of the subscription. Okay. So you can just give a try. So maybe tomorrow or maybe after the session, you can just give a try by logging into portal.azure.com. Okay, because no need to create another subscription, because anyway, for training purpose, we'll be using this free trial, right? So we have a limitation of only 30 days. So if we have consumed the 13,300 in 10 days, again, maybe we have to create another subscription, because we cannot upgrade our subscription and for the pay as you go. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Coming to the subscription.
Rajesh, as I am trying to open portal.azure.com on my laptop. Okay, so here I put my email ID, the one which is given in the subscription. The password would be the same that I used to log into Gmail.
Same your Gmail password only. Absolutely, same your Gmail password. But before that, check your Gmail account as well. Maybe you could have received an invitation. Anyway, it will redirect to the portal.azure.com only.
Because Gmail password is not allowing me to log in. So that's
it will allow. It will definitely allow.
Okay. Then I'll check in case any issue. Then I'll let you know.
You can just let me know. It will definitely allow. I'm sure about it. Okay. You can see in subscription. So the subscription name is free trial. This is a subscription name. Okay. And current billing period is 12/05 to 1/4/2020. So I have a 30 days of validity. Okay, and the currency is INR and the status is active. So once the 30 days is completed, so if I check same subscription after 4th January 2020, the status will be disabled. If I miss to upgrade my free trial subscription to pay as you go, then it will change from active to disabled. It will be in disabled status and you won't be able to create, you won't be able to delete as well. We won't be able to do anything on the subscription. So once it is disabled. Okay. So this is my role, which is account admin. So I'm account admin to this subscription, and also I'm owner of this subscription as well. Okay. So if I wanted to change my subscription name as per my requirement, because free trial is Microsoft provided that name to my subscription. So if I wanted to change my subscription name, I can change it here. If I wanted to segregate like dev subscription, production subscription, and QA subscription, we can change the subscription name from here. But subscription ID, it will be unique and it won't allow you to change the subscription ID. So based upon this subscription ID, like I said, your billing will get generated. And this subscription ID will be unique across the globe. Subscription ID will not be assigned to any other customer. Okay?
Okay.
And coming to the virtual machine, so we can, okay, I'll just show you. First, we'll discuss about what all resources which Azure is providing to the customers before provisioning virtual machine. Okay, so if I wanted to create any resource, okay, you can see here, I can create a Windows Server 2016 Ubuntu server. Okay, so these are the categories where you can choose from. If I choose compute, okay, you can see the virtual machine. I'm getting an option to create a virtual machine. I can create a SQL Server 2017 Enterprise Windows Server on a SQL on a Server 2016. So these we will call it as images which Microsoft has provided to the customers. Okay, so you will have 2016 operating system image, you will have 2019 data center image, and these images are provided by Microsoft Azure, and it will be available to the customers. Okay, so if I go to this virtual machine, okay, if I wanted to create a virtual machine, you can see here image. Okay, this is an image where we have to choose. So these are the images which are available to the customers. So we won't be able to see 2008, 2003. Anyway, still in some organization, we can see Windows Server 2003 and Windows Server 2008 as well, right? Maybe in your organization, you just logged into one server and you just noticed that that virtual machine is a 2003, right? But here in Microsoft Azure, 2003 images and 2008 images are not available because Microsoft has stopped support for these images, which is 2003 and 2008, because 2016, 2012, 2019 has been released. So they'll be releasing products. So they'll be stop supporting the previous products like 2003, 2008, R2, and currently only 12, 16, and 19 is available from Microsoft Azure, which is Windows operating system. These are Windows operating systems. Okay. Okay. So
I think Ubuntu is a Linux server, right?
Yes, it's a flavor of Linux actually. Ubuntu
Okay.
and SUSE, right? And we have another server as well, like AX. So these are the flavors of Linux. We have Red Hat Linux as well. So these are two Linux part, not into the Windows. I think Windows is completely UI, but Linux is
UI,
command line, right?
Right.
Okay. First, let me explain you about our existing one only. Okay, so this is virtual machine. Okay, and databases. We have databases as well, like Azure SQL managed instances and SQL databases, Azure databases for MariaDB. So these are the databases which are available, and these are the products which Microsoft introduced to the customers, so they can use these databases. So in this database, they won't be having infrastructure. Like I said, for computer, if you choose compute, you'll have your virtual machine, which is IaaS component, right? In cloud, we have three services. If you go and see in market, any cloud will provide these three services, which is IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and the second one is PaaS, platform as a service, and third one is SaaS, which is software as a service. So in infrastructure as a service, my cloud will assign one virtual machine and it will be allocated to the customer. So he can log into the virtual machine, he can start installing application, he can start installing software, and he can use that virtual machine as per his requirement. That is IaaS component. So PaaS is like platform as a service. So platform will be defined by cloud. You just have to put your database, or maybe you just have to put some application on that. But infrastructure will be handled by Microsoft Azure only. Here, infrastructure also will be handled by Microsoft. But if you face some issues inside the Azure virtual machine, like you have installed some third-party application which is not recommended inside the Azure virtual machine. So currently, I'm inside the Azure virtual machine only, right? So this is Azure virtual machine. Okay, so I have installed one application which is not recommended actually, but still I can install it. There are no restrictions that you cannot install any application. You can just treat this virtual machine as your local machine or maybe your local laptop. You can install that application. But if that application is restricting your virtual machine to perform well, and if that application is restarting your virtual machine, or if it is shutting down your virtual machine, then Microsoft Azure will not take the complete responsibility. So they will support, but they won't take full responsibility that due to that application only my virtual machine is rebooting and shutting down. So we will provide you some credits, or we will refund some money. So we won't be getting any commitment from the Microsoft Azure that there is a issue from Microsoft Azure only, because we have installed that application, right? Because here infrastructure as provided by Microsoft, but you're installing some applications on your virtual machine. Here the responsibility has to be taken care by customer only, because he trusted that application, right? And coming to PaaS component, which is platform as a service, the best example is SQL database, which is Azure SQL database. So Azure SQL database, you can just simply provision a SQL database in Azure portal. Okay, so once that is done, the backend is like the infrastructure. Anyway, if you provision a SQL database, that SQL database will be installed on a server only, which is a virtual machine, right? But that virtual machine will be managed by Microsoft Azure completely in the sense 100%. So if you face some connectivity issue to your database, Microsoft Azure will take full responsibility, because that they have some limitations, and that server will not be handled to the will be handed over to the customer. Only database is handed over to the customer, not the complete infrastructure. You got it, right? The difference between IaaS and PaaS.
Yes, Rajesh. Yes.
So here we can also install one SQL database. So if you just install a SQL server on it, so there is a application for SQL database, right? So SQL server, we can make this server as a SQL server as well. I can do that, okay? And I can start configuring databases on the SQL server as well. But if you face some issues, Microsoft will not take full responsibility. Wherein there is a PaaS component, which is platform as a service, they'll take full responsibility as platform has been provided by customers, by Microsoft Azure. And the other service, which is SaaS, software as a service, the best example is Office 365. No need to have any infrastructure, no need to have any platform. Office 365 will be given by Microsoft Azure. You just have to integrate your on-premise email IDs to Azure, Office 365. That's it. Nothing to manage. Complete infrastructure has been provided by Azure and also the platform. Everything. Only you have to integrate your on-premise IDs or the email IDs to Office 365, and Microsoft will take full responsibility on that as well. Only problem here is like the transparency and the troubleshooting part. We won't be having much in platform and the scope actually. So you won't be able to troubleshoot further in PaaS and SaaS component. But in IaaS, you can troubleshoot and no need to depend on Microsoft Azure, because if something happens on this virtual machine, admin can start troubleshooting on this VM, right? So the virtual machine CPU is high and the RAM is also high. You can start monitoring your CPU and you can start monitoring your RAM, and you can kill the resources which are using high CPU and RAM as well. So that means no need to depend on Microsoft Azure. So simply an Azure admin can log into virtual machine and he can kill a few resources which are using high CPU and RAM, because mostly the performance issues will occur based upon your CPU and RAM only. If your CPU is more than 90%, of course your virtual machine will be slow. If your CPU is more than 90% of your RAM, then your virtual machine will not run. So these are the two resources, right, to a virtual machine that users have to connect to the VM. Okay. So these transparency will be available in IaaS, but not in PaaS. PaaS is like just simply you have to configure database and the rest Microsoft Azure will take care. Okay. And coming to the portal, so I'll just go to this portal. Okay. All resources, all services, subscription and storage account. Okay. Storage account, I'll just tell you something about storage account as well. So in a case like you don't want to have a virtual machine, you just want to upload your data to one disk or maybe a storage. So no need to have a virtual machine in that case, right? So simply you can use storage account and you can upload and you can download files to that particular storage account, just like a data disk or maybe external hard disk, where you can upload and download your data from storage account to your local machine and from local machine to the storage account as well. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So resource group. So yesterday we discussed about resource group, right? So a resource group is just like a folder in your computer. So nothing to worry about resource group. So resource group is just like it will have complete all your resources under one umbrella or maybe under one roof. So if you see, I just created one virtual machine, but along with this virtual machine, one virtual network got created, public IP, network security group, network interface, disk and storage account got created. That means the other resources, virtual network and these resources apart from VM are dependent on this VM. If any of this resource is not available, then this virtual machine will not run.
Sorry, Rajesh, can you come again?
Yeah.
Okay. So if any of this resource is not available, so if I try to delete any virtual machine, it won't let me to delete actually. If I try to delete a network interface, it says like fail to delete network interface, error network interface something. If you see, it must be disassociated from the resource because this machine is attached to this virtual machine. Okay, so in order to create a virtual machine, okay, in order to create a virtual machine, I'll just open a notepad. Okay, if I wanted to create a virtual machine, first I need compute. Compute is like CPU and RAM. CPU and RAM. Second, I need a storage. Storage is like our operating system disk or maybe the data disk. And last, which is network. Okay, if we talk about our own laptop, so if you wanted to have a operating system which is Windows 10, it should have a CPU, RAM, which is compute, and it should have a disk as well, hard disk, right? Without having a hard disk, you cannot install operating system in it. So without having a network interface or without having any network connectivity, you cannot connect to that virtual machine. So these are the basic components which are used to create a virtual machine. Okay. So your virtual machine, okay, your virtual machine will be built as per the CPU and RAM. Okay. So if you use 4 CPU and if you use 8 GB of RAM, there is a billing, there is a cost for that virtual machine size or the VM size. Okay. And for storage, Microsoft Azure will charge, but that will be very minimal. And for network also Microsoft will charge and that will be very minimal. In virtual machine, the expensive part is only CPU and RAM. Okay. So let me do one thing. Let me show you this. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is an Azure virtual machine overview. Okay. So you can see this is a physical host. Physical host is nothing but a physical server. We can just assume that is a physical server. Okay. On physical server, there will be a virtualization or a hypervisor. Okay. And that hypervisor is Hyper-V from Microsoft. That is a Microsoft product. Okay. On hypervisor, you'll have your virtual machine. Okay. So this is your VM. You can see this screenshot, right?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so this is your virtual machine. Okay, so this is your virtual machine, and this virtual machine is hosted on this physical server. Okay, so storage part. Okay, so there will be a storage cluster in each and every data centers. Okay, and your operating system disk. Your operating system disk will be available in a storage cluster. Okay, so there are 3 clusters in Microsoft Azure virtual machine. One is compute cluster, and the next one is storage cluster, and the third one is network cluster. So from compute cluster, if you provision a virtual machine, so if you simply provision a virtual machine, okay, this will be in compute, compute cluster, and this will be storage cluster, this will be network cluster. Okay, so if you are provisioning a virtual machine, okay, your CPU and your RAM will be picked from compute cluster. compute cluster will be, it will have physical servers. A cluster will have multiple servers, maybe like some 200 or 300 of physical servers in one rack. In one rack, you'll have a bunch of physical servers. So from that physical server, it will pick CPU and RAM, and it will create a VM. Okay. And if you are using if you are using operating system disk or data disk, it will pick that capacity, maybe 100 GB of operating system disk or 1 TB of your data disk. It will pick from a storage cluster. So storage cluster will be also in a rack, but it won't have physical servers. It will have storage devices. Storage devices
Okay.
will be in DBs. Okay. So from that storage devices, it will take 100 GB and it will assign to your virtual machine. Okay. And the third part is network cluster. So network will have some switches, routers. So from that rack, it will pick one network interface and it will assign to your virtual machine. So that means these three clusters are dependent. So if one cluster is not available, then your virtual machine will not run. If any of the cluster, if storage cluster went down, then your virtual machine will not run. So if your network cluster went down, then your virtual machine will not run.
Okay.
Okay. So here, if
So
you see,
Rajesh, on network clusters, what all resources are there? Network cluster, what all,
your network
like in
interfaces,
storage,
network
interfaces.
network interfaces, and the public IP address to your virtual machine.
Okay, okay. All these.
Okay, so these are all these resources will be picked from the network cluster only.
Okay.
Okay, so if you see here, this is the physical host, right? So this is the physical host, and this is the temporary drive. Okay, so this is a temporary disk for on each and every virtual machine, on each and every Azure virtual machine, there will be two disks. Okay, one is operating system disk, and the second one is temporary storage. Okay, so this, which is 126 GB of capacity, has been picked from storage cluster. Okay, but this 32 GB of capacity has been picked by its own physical server, not from the storage. If you see this, temporary storage is from the physical server. Temporary storage is from your physical host, and your operating system disk, which is OS disk of VMs, is picking from the storage cluster. Okay. See, compute cluster will have physical servers, right? So physical servers means it will have the hard disk as well. It's not like it will have only CPU and RAM. It will have some capacity of hard disk. Hard disk will be used for some virtualization and also for the virtual machines as well. Okay. Each and every virtual machine in Azure will have D drive in Windows, and in Linux also will have a temporary disk, and that temporary disk will be assigned to the virtual machine based upon the VM sizes. So currently it is 32 GB. For this VM size, if we increase our VM size, it may increase to 64 GB or maybe 128 GB as well. And that capacity will be picked by its own physical server, which is its own physical host. Okay.
So Rajesh, to be clear on this, like as you mentioned, every virtual machine has D drive. Okay. So D drive is something like which comes from storage cluster, because that's an
not from the storage cluster. Your operating system only comes from the storage cluster, not the D drive.
Okay.
So let me do one thing. Let me add one disk. I'll show you. So if you see, there is only one disk, which is OS disk, right?
Okay.
This will clear your doubt. Okay.
OS disk means that is in the physical server itself. Physical server's inbuilt memory.
No. OS disk is from the storage cluster only. Okay, let me explain. So if you see, this is 126 GB of capacity, right? Okay. There is one more disk which is 32 GB. Okay. If I go to Azure portal, okay, if I simply go to my Azure portal, okay, there is operating system disk here. Okay. I can see the capacity as well. Okay, I can see, if I go to configuration, I can see 127 GB.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my operating system disk. but I cannot see this 32 GB anywhere in my Azure portal. This disk is not available in Azure portal. Only the operating system disk is available in Azure portal. So if I wanted to add one more disk, okay, and just go here, just click on this, disks. Fine. Change size. It. Done and save. Now what I'm doing, I'm just picking 64 GB of capacity or the data disk capacity from storage cluster. Okay, so if you go and see this image, so this storage cluster is having a huge capacity. So from that capacity or from that storage cluster, I'm picking 64 GB of capacity and I'm assigning to this virtual machine.
Okay.
Okay. Now it's done. Now this is added. Okay. So in order to see that data disk, it won't visible in your PC because we have to initialize it. So if I go to disk mgmt.msc, okay, disk 2 is added, done, 64 GB, right? Done, right? Can you see the 64 GB here?
Yes.
This new volume F. Now what I did actually, as per this image, I picked 64 GB and I allocated this 64 GB to this virtual machine. I cannot assign one more temporary disk to the virtual machine because the temporary disk will be assigned to the virtual machine from Azure only. So we cannot delete and you cannot do any changes to the temporary disk. Okay. The issue with the temporary disk is like even Microsoft Azure recommends that not to save any files in this temporary disk, because that temporary disk is assigned to the physical host. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe I think I'm confusing, right? Am I confusing?
So Rajesh, this F. So Rajesh, this F drive has been. So I can understand that for one virtual machine, it should have three components. So one is the storage cluster, and the network cluster, and the third one is compute plus storage and compute cluster. Compute is the yeah. So the C drive comes from the storage cluster, right?
Absolutely correct.
And what because storage cluster, because for the runtime, for example, if we want to increase the size of the C drive, that's why it comes from the storage cluster, right? For having like the additional drive, for example, because I'm assuming that we are not going to use D drive because Microsoft is not recommending, right, to store anything on the D drive. So we have added F drive. F drive comes from the physical server, right?
F drive. This F drive, right?
Yes. Yes.
This F drive is from storage cluster. No, this F drive is from storage cluster only, not from the physical drive.
Okay. It also comes from the storage cluster. Okay.
Storage cluster. Okay. C drive is from storage cluster, and your F drive is also from storage cluster, but not the D drive.
Okay. So
D
drive is from the physical server.
Physical host. Correct. Okay, if
Yes.
you see this,
Okay.
you can see
Mhm.
warning, this is a temporary disk. Any data stored on this drive is subject to loss and there is no way to recover it.
Mhm.
Please do not use this disk for
Okay.
storing any personal or application data. They have
Okay.
clearly mentioned.
Mhm.
So no one has created this notepad in this temporary disk. It will automatically create, okay, in each and every
Mhm.
temporary storage. This is temporary disk for a virtual machine.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So it
Okay,
it
and
creates
also,
automatically, Rajesh. So this temporary
absolutely,
storage
absolutely,
creates automatically when we provision any
automatically.
virtual machine.
If you provision any virtual machine in Azure, one
Mhm.
temporary disk
Uh-huh.
will be created and it will assign to your virtual machine, and this temporary disk will be there, and the capacity of the temporary disk will be varies from each and every size. So currently I'm using what is this size B. If you see the VM size, okay, the
Mhm.
VM size is B4MS. So for B4MS, they will
Mhm.
assign 32 GB of temporary storage, which is
Mhm.
32
Okay.
GB. If I
Okay.
increase my VM size to 8 CPU and 32 GB of RAM, I may get
Mhm.
64 or I may get 128 GB of capacity as well.
But this
If I
temporary
downgrade,
storage we cannot utilize, right?
no, we cannot utilize it.
Okay.
The main reason actually, so if you wanted to have usually in even Microsoft has confirmed that even they recommend, if you wanted to
Mhm.
have create a page file. So I think you are aware of the page file, right? So where it will act like a virtual memory. Okay, so you can create a page file in this, or you can save page file in D drive rather than in C drive, because once you restart your virtual machine, your page file and your RAM get refreshed, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
only this D drive you can save your page file in it. You can use it actually. You can
And
use it as a page file.
and this temporary storage ideally it comes from compute physical servers, right? Physical servers like which
Physical
is there
server.
in compute
Absolutely.
cluster. Okay.
Absolutely correct. And here you may get one doubt actually, because if you
Mhm.
see, if I go to this notepad, they clearly
Mhm.
confirm that any data stored on this drive is subject to loss and there is no way to recover it. You can ask
Okay.
me this question: why this? If I save any file on this virtual in this temporary storage, why it will get deleted? Because we are not deleting anything, right?
Correct.
We are
Correct.
not
Correct.
deleting, or no one is logging into your virtual machine to delete these
Right.
files. You can ask this question actually. I'll tell
Yeah.
you the
And
reason why
and
it will. Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead,
And this
Sudhanshu.
temporary storage size is 32 GB. Like in some cases, it might be 64 GB. So when we do
Correct.
not use this storage, and what is the purpose? Why it is being allocated?
Hmm. See, the reason why they have temporary storage for this virtual machine is like I said, you
Mhm.
can configure your page file on this virtual machine, and you can use this temporary storage as a tunnel. If you wanted to copy from files from one drive to another drive, you can just put these files in D drive, and you can copy from D drive to another folder only for that particular session. So if that
Correct.
virtual machine gets restart, your temporary
Mhm.
drive will get your temporary drive, the files which are there in temporary file will get deleted, and if you shut down
Okay.
your virtual machine, and also it will get deleted.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
First
Its
we'll go
purpose
to
is just
Azure.
to copy the files and just
That's it.
move it to other location.
Absolutely. Not more than that. Azure VM sizes. Hmm. Okay, you can see here, right? Okay, standard B4MS. Okay, this is having 4 CPU of
What's
RAM. That is correct. 16 GB of RAM, and your temporary storage is 32 GB. If I increase to
mm,
B8MS, my temporary storage will increase to 64 GB.
okay.
This is as per your VM sizes. Okay. So now I'll tell you the reason why it will get deleted if I save some files on this temporary storage, and there is no guarantee that it will get deleted. I faced some cases actually. I just came across few cases where if I save a folder on this temporary storage and I just restarted my virtual machine, still the folder is in temporary drive only.
Okay.
I did not delete it actually. It was there in the temporary storage. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why it was there in same temporary storage. Okay. Let us go to this. Okay. Currently, my VM, which is VM1, okay, is in physical server 1, physical server 2, physical server 3, and physical server 4. Let's put it as 4 physical servers. Okay. Currently, your virtual machine is in physical server 1. Okay. Now, this is for physical server 1. So now this virtual machine is in physical server 1 and it is running fine because physical server is providing CPU and RAM and also the temporary storage. That's it. But the storage is picking from the storage cluster, and network components will be picked from network cluster only, not from your physical server or not from your storage cluster. Okay. So I'm running this virtual machine since long, and my virtual machine is assigned to physical server 1. After a few days, maybe after 2 days or maybe after 3 days, I restarted my virtual machine. Okay, I initiated a restart operation. Okay. So after restarting, so while restarting, okay, there is a chance your virtual machine may move to physical server 2. You got it right? While restarting.
Yes,
In
yes,
backend,
Rajesh. Yeah.
actually. So you won't get a notification that your virtual machine is moving to another physical server. So while restarting, it's not guaranteed that your virtual machine will move to another physical server. It may move to physical server 2. So once my virtual machine 1 is moved to physical server 2, okay, right? The actual temporary disk, when my virtual machine was in physical server 1, this temporary storage was picked from physical server 1, right? So if my virtual machine is moving to physical server 2, and physical server 2 will assign one more 32 GB of temporary disk, and it will assign to your virtual machine. And at that point of time, that temporary disk will be new.
Okay.
You got it right? So
Yes.
in a
Yes, Rajesh,
case,
we got it.
you got it right. So in a case, your virtual machine will be still in physical server 1 only, and that temporary disk is from your physical server 1. So it won't delete your files on temporary storage. They confirm that there is a chance that your files will get deleted, but there is no way to recover it. Okay.
Okay.
So if I start adding data disk to the virtual machine, so that data disk capacity will be picked from the storage cluster only, not from the physical server. The physical server job is to assign or to provide only virtual CPU and virtual RAM. That's it, not more than that. And also the temporary disk actually. That is temporary.
Okay.
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 Yes.
Just let me know if you have any doubts, because this is the basic concept actually to understand how virtual machine will how we provision virtual machine in Azure and how it work in backend, because we have to understand this basic concept so that we can troubleshoot further actually. So if you face some issues, if you see that your storage class is not available, your virtual machine will not run actually, because the C drive is not available, right? So in my laptop, if my data disk is not the hard disk is not available, my computer won't start at all, because your hard disk is not available. Still you have a temporary disk, but your operating system disk is in C drive, not in the temporary disk, right? So storage class is not available, your virtual machine will not start. If your physical server is down, no. If your network is down, there is no way to start your virtual machine. So these three clusters are dependent.
Okay. So Rajesh, like when we provision any virtual machine, so these three clusters, compute, network, and storage cluster. So these clusters is also provisioned along with virtual machine, right?
Not
Like a
exactly.
source code.
Not exactly in resource group actually. So we won't have that much scope to see network cluster, compute cluster, and storage cluster from Microsoft Azure, because this is a data center architecture from Azure, not
Gotcha.
from the customer point of view.
Okay. No, so earlier, previously, you just shown us like until some resources are attached with the VM, so we cannot delete those resources
Hmm.
until we detach those resources from the VM and then.
Right,
So,
right. That is correct.
so
Hmm.
what was those resources actually which was attached to VM?
Hmm. I'll show you those resources.
Yeah, right. These.
Hmm. So these are the
So
resources.
8 resources. Okay.
Hmm.
So this
So I just added
network
data disk,
interface.
right? I just added one data disk. So data disk is
Right,
also
right.
included in this resource group. And this is network
Okay.
interface. This network interface will be picked from network cluster, network security group as well, public IP as well, and storage account will be picked from the storage cluster.
Okay, so these are the components of all the 3 clusters, like storage clusters, network clusters.
Right,
It
right. That
can.
is correct.
uh,
Hmm.
Okay.
So if you wanted to provision a virtual machine, so you have to use
Mm.
components from storage, network, and compute.
Uh,
That is mandatory actually.
Mandatory. Okay.
Hmm.
Good.
Mm.
So each and every subscription, so I'll just show you the resource providers as well.
Mhm.
Subscriptions. Okay. Okay, if you see here, Microsoft.compute, Microsoft.storage, Microsoft.network. So in a fresh subscription, if you
Okay.
have not created any resource, okay, so
Mhm.
all these providers will be in not registered status. That means you have a fresh subscription, and that subscription is registered with Azure, but not with that particular data center. So if you start provisioning resources, like if you simply create a Azure virtual machine, all these providers will get registered automatically.
Okay.
I did not register these manually, because all
Mm.
these registered will, all these resource providers will get registered when you provision resources as part of these providers actually. So if I talk about Microsoft.compute virtual machine, so if you provision a virtual machine, this provider will get registered. So if you create a storage account and the
Mhm.
data disk and the operating system disk, this Microsoft.storage resource provider will get registered. Microsoft.network, it will get registered when you provision a virtual machine along with network interface, public IP network, virtual network, network security group.
Okay.
Okay, so there are few cases like if a resource provider is not enabled, you won't be able to create a virtual machine or any other resources. But by default, when you start provisioning resources, the respective resource providers will get registered in this subscription, because this just to understand that these are the resources available in this subscription, and it will allocate to the data center infrastructure and the virtual and the physical servers as well. So it will we start using the infrastructure from Azure perspective, right? So once you register these, so we can use the infrastructure from Azure. Like if you register Microsoft.storage, you can use storage cluster. If you register Microsoft.network, then you can use network cluster. So in the same way, we have many clusters actually, like database, okay, like Microsoft dot data, Azure data, Databricks, okay. So
Mhm.
these are
Mhm.
the resource providers. So if you wanted to create a SQL database, then the respective resource providers will get registered. Microsoft Data Factory, Data Lake Store, Data Migration, Data Share. So these are the resource providers. So currently we are using only compute, storage, and network cluster in Azure
Network.
infrastructure, right? So there are another
Okay.
clusters where you can provision your SQL database, where you can provision ADLS, which is Azure Data Lake Store, Databricks. There are different clusters. Not only compute, storage, and network is available in Azure data centers. There are another clusters. So in order to use that cluster, these respective resource providers you have to register. But by default, when you provision, it will register automatically. But in some cases, you will face some issues while registering. So you have to register it manually, and then you have to provision resources. But that is very rare actually. Okay.
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 Okay, fine. Then let's talk about virtual machine first. Okay, let me show you then. I'll show you how to create a virtual machine. Okay, first. Create a resource. I'll type virtual machine.
Okay, Rajesh, can we create resource group also, or it will create it automatically? Resource groups.
We can create it manually, and we can create while provisioning virtual machine as well.
Okay.
So now we can create multiple virtual machines in a single
Yes,
account.
you can do that. Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
You can create multiple virtual machines. Okay, now if you see, first I need to select the subscription.
Rajesh, sorry, hold on. Rajesh, can you just go back and show me like how did you get this?
Okay.
Windows Server you searched. Okay, subscription and Windows Server.
Okay, first let me go to the dashboard. I'll just go to the dashboard. So this is my dashboard. So it will show you the recent resources. So
Correct.
I just accessed the free trial virtual machine disk. So these are my recent resources which I have visited.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So if I wanted to create a new resource, I can create it from here. Create a resource.
Okay. Okay. Create a resource.
Okay.
From
Also, I can go here. I can click on create a resource.
So do I need to note
Dashboard is available.
do I need to note this down, this flow that you are showing, or you have some documentation where we can see this?
No, this is already recorded. I'm recording this session. You can just go through it, and also if you wanted to note it down, you can note it. No problem.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So this is Microsoft Azure dashboard. This is your subscription. Okay. Like I said, if you wanted to go to your subscription, you can go here. Okay. In all services, I can go to my subscription. Okay. I can simply go to my subscription. I can see my subscription name, subscription ID, my role, and the current cost. And the status is active.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, now if I wanted to create a new resource, okay, if I wanted to create any resource, now if I want to create a resource, okay, let's create a Windows Server 2019, or else we can create 2016 data center. Anyway, it is available here. If you see, this is Azure Marketplace. Okay, in Azure Marketplace, Microsoft Azure will upload their own images, and also if you wanted to upload your own image, you can also upload your own image in Microsoft Azure as well, which is Azure Marketplace. Okay, let's assume you have created one operating system from your end. One organization has created one operating system, maybe something operating system, and that something operating system they have tested, and they wanted to use that operating system by users. So they can simply upload that something operating system to Azure Marketplace, and it will be available to the customers. That means Microsoft Azure, which is cloud, will provide the infrastructure, and the operating system, which is image, can be available by other customers or maybe from Microsoft Azure as well. So here, Windows Server 2016 data center is Microsoft, and this image is published by Microsoft Azure only. We have some third-party applications or third-party images which is not supported by Microsoft, and that support has to be done by that third-party user or maybe the business user, not the Microsoft actually, because Microsoft is providing only the infrastructure but not the complete operating system. But here in this case, Windows Server 2016 or Windows Server 2019 is a Microsoft product, and Microsoft will take full responsibility to support software and also the hardware, both. But in that case, which is something operating system, Microsoft will support only from hardware point of view, but not from the software point of view. Okay. So again, I'll just go to my dashboard. If I go to the dashboard, I can create a resource from here, else I can go and create a resource from here as well. Okay. So now I'll create a resource here. Okay. So I'll choose Windows Server 2016 here. Okay. So if I simply select this, else I can go and I can see, like, I'll just type Windows. Okay. And server, Windows Server. Here I have an option to choose images. I can create 2016 data center with containers and server core. So these are the operating system which are available to the customers. Okay. So now let me select 2019 data center and I'll just create. Okay. First, I need to select the subscription. In which subscription do I need to provision this virtual machine? Now coming to the resource group, you can select existing one. If you wanted to select existing one, you can select, or if you wanted to create, we can create a new one. Test VM01-RG. Done. Okay. So now what I'm doing, I'm creating a virtual machine in free trial subscription, and my resource group, which is new, that is test VM01-RG. And virtual machine, I'll just put it as test VM01. Okay. And region. In which region do I need to provision my virtual machine?
So region, like how do we decide like which region we should create ideally?
Based upon your users. So if you are if you have multiple users who want to access this virtual machine from India, then you can put your virtual machine in India region only. No need to put in any other location, right? Because bandwidth will play a major role in that. So if your virtual machine is in West Europe location or in UK South location or maybe in US, if you wanted to access that virtual machine, the bandwidth or the traffic will start from your location, which is Pune, Mumbai, Hyderabad or Bangalore, and it will go via out of India and it will go to US and it will start using that virtual machine, right? So bandwidth play a major role at that point of time. So if you have like all your users are in India, then it's better to have your virtual machine in India location only.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. Azure region. So let me show you Azure regions first. Perfect. Locations. Got it. Let's talk about Asia first. This will avoid some confusion. Okay. Asia Pacific. Okay. So in our Azure portal, we'll get these options actually. So we can choose Australia Central 2, or maybe Central India, South India, West India. So like I said yesterday, Sudhanshu, so we cannot create our virtual machine in any of the China region. China is
any of the China region.
Absolutely. Any of the China region, we cannot create our virtual machine. Because China, they have their own private cloud and they don't want to create a virtual machine by others to the China, and they will not create any other virtual machine in any other location. On post approval, they can use other location, but their location, which is China East, North, East 2 and North 2, no one can create it apart from China people. Okay. So here in region, okay, if you see in region, it will just give you the region, not the data center location. If you see Japan West, Korea South, but not exactly the region or the location, right? If we go to Asia Pacific, where is a Central India? It simply says Central India, but not the complete region, right? If you wanted to see where is your virtual machine, Central India, virtual machine. Central India is in Pune.
Central India. Okay.
So in Pune, there is a data center, and that data center is managed by Azure. There is a building actually. In Pune, there is a building, and in building you will have a bunch of physical servers and bunch of storage clusters, bunch of network clusters as well. Just like our own data center, our organization data center.
Okay.
Okay, in South India, Chennai, and West India, it's Mumbai. That means they have Azure is having a data center in Pune, Chennai, and Mumbai. That means if you create a virtual machine, so in this case, if all your users are from Pune location, it's better to have your virtual machine in Central India only.
Central India. Okay.
Okay, if your users are from south like Mumbai and few users from Hyderabad or Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, it's better to have your virtual machine in South India, which is Chennai.
Okay.
Okay, based upon your requirement. So that Azure admin has to take the call in which region my virtual machine has to be. So definitely he will discuss with the business users, and he will get to know that because business users will confirm that, right? Because Azure admin role is to only provision resources and application, or maybe configuring some websites or any other softwares. But actual users and everything, the business users has to know. So the business users has to educate the Azure admin, and he has to get all the users details. So based upon that, he has to create a virtual machine on a region, based upon their region. Okay.
Okay.
Done. Okay, region, you have to choose it. So let us choose Central India for now. Okay. And availability options, currently we'll go with no infrastructure redundancy required. I'll explain you about availability zone and what is the benefit of having availability set to a virtual machine. Because first let's start with no infrastructure redundancy required. Okay. Now I'll choose data center. I need to choose the VM size.
Okay.
I think these VM sizes are not available in Central India. Oh my God, only these VM sizes are available. Anyway, we'll just delete it once we are done.
These are costly.
This is costly, but other VM sizes are not available in Central India.
Not right.
Because the physical server is not supported in Central India. The physical servers which are there in Pune region is not supported, because it's not like that you can create a VM size in all regions. Each and every region. So each and every region have their limitations, because as per the user request or as per the user's demand, they'll start installing the physical server. So if they are getting a very less number of requests from users, so no need to have a high-end infrastructure, right? So normal or middle infrastructure is fine with to have other users in that virtual machine. Okay. So let us go with this, because anyway, after creating, we have to delete it because it's costing us 96,000 per month, right? So on an hourly basis, we can see the cost as well. So once we provision it, so it will show you on hourly basis as well. So let me put it as Azure, and we have to provide a credentials as well. So this username and password is to log into your virtual machine. It's just like a local admin. Okay. So Azure account will get created and it will be available in your virtual machine. So by using this Azure username, you can log into this virtual machine across the globe, from anywhere actually. You can log in from another region as well. Okay. So now I need to make my RDP port, which is 3389, publicly. I need to enable this. In order to access this virtual machine, as you know, RDP port number is 3389, right? So I need to allow 3389 port publicly so that I can connect to this virtual machine if I have an internet connection. So if I disable this, no one can RDP to this virtual machine. No one can do that. Okay, so I need to allow that. Okay, so let me go and click on S. Okay. Okay, regarding this Windows Server license, each and every Windows server like 2016, 19 or 2008 or 2012 will have Windows license, right? In our laptop also, if we have a Windows 10 or Windows 10 Pro, there is a license part. Okay, so this virtual machine will have a license which is pre-configured inside the virtual machine only. But in some cases, our organization will buy a bunch of licenses, product keys, okay, and that product key is not utilized. So if you want to use that unutilized product key, you have to simply click on S. Okay, it says like already have a Windows Server license, because your cost will be less. This virtual machine, which is 96,000 rupees, right? So that 96,000 rupees is included with your compute cluster, like CPU, your RAM, and your license as well, which is Windows license.
Windows license, okay.
Okay, if you wanted to remove that Windows license, you can remove it, and it will save up to 49% of your cost. That means the cost is 96,000, right? So let's take it as 50%. So 96,000 divided by 2 is close to 48,000, I guess. So your cost will be only 45,000 if you choose this option. Okay. But after provisioning this virtual machine, you have to activate your Windows license with your product key. Else it won't work. You cannot install any other application, or you cannot install any other softwares in the virtual machine.
Okay.
You got it, right? So let us choose no, because we don't have a Windows license. Okay, so let me go to disk. This is the disk, which is storage cluster. First, which is basic, that will be picked from the compute cluster. What options I have chosen here? One is free trial, resource group is fine, and virtual machine name fine, region is also okay, image 2016, this, and the VM size. So the VM size which I have selected, which is having 4 CPU and 218 GB of RAM, this 4 CPU and 218 GB of RAM will be picked from compute cluster. Okay, and next option is disk, and this disk, which is standard HDD, standard SSD, and premium HDD. Standard HDD is hard disk drive, and SSD is solid state drive. I think you're aware of this hard disk drive and solid state drive, right?
Yes.
Are you? You are aware, right? So what all benefits I'll get in SSD, and what all benefits I won't get in HDD?
Sorry, Rajesh, I'm not aware.
Fine. Let me explain you. I'll just give you one example as well. A normal hard disk. A normal hard disk will just go back to 15 years back. 15 years. We used to have some Seagate disk, right? Seagate, Samsung disk, where you will have some magnetic roll actually. So magnetic film, right? So that architecture is the HDD, which is hard disk drive. So currently we have flash drives, which are pen drive. Let's put it as pen drive only. Okay. One example is, if you plug one pen drive to your laptop, it will take 5 to 10 seconds, I guess, right? It will take only 5 to 10 seconds to read, and the copy write operation is also very quick as compared to 15 years back, which is hard disk drive. Okay, the performance plays a major role here.
Yes.
Your 120 GB of hard disk will be very big, like it will be size of your one burger or maybe one pastry size. But 128 GB of pen drive is very small, right? Because that is flash drive. Hard disk drive is like if you are accessing one folder, let's put it as 100 files in your hard disk drive. Okay, you have 100 files in hard disk drive. So if you wanted to access 55th file, okay, hard disk drive, the capacity or the nature of hard disk drive is, it will go and see one file, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will go on to 55, and also it will go 56, 57, it will go 100, and finally it will say like 55 done. Wherein in SSD, if you have same 100 files, it will start from 100 and it will go to 55, and it will simply say 55 is here. It won't go beyond 55, because the reading capacity or the reading time and the write speed will be very high as compared to hard disk drive, and in SSD is very quick.
Okay.
Okay. So that magnetic, in hard disk drive you will have magnetic films, it will rotate. Okay, so if you just open that hard disk, very old hard disk, if you break and if you open that, it will have a magnetic field, a magnetic layer actually, just like a film. So it will rotate it. It will rotate. It will start from top and will go to bottom as well. But in flash drive, it will quickly show you the result, and also it will have the recent items as well in the flash drive. Okay, so hard disk drive is very old technology, and if you feel that your application is very rare and no one is using your virtual machine, like you are getting only some 100 or 200 hits, then you can install that application on a HDD, because when you try to access that application, it will be very slow. The write operation will be very slow. If you open that website which is there in HDD, it will be very slow. If your application is available on premium SSD, that application will be very quick, and you can access more than 100 as well. So more than 100 users also can access that website or the application, because the write speed and the read speed will be very good, which is throughput and IOPS. IOPS is like input output per second, okay, and throughput is like the bandwidth, the capacity, how much I need to bring the data from application to the user, and also how much data I can put from user to the application. Throughput plays a major role, and input is like how many input output operation per second, how many users are contacting that application.
Okay.
Okay, so that will be more in SSD, but these throughput and IOPS will be less in HDD, and that is fixed actually. But here, Microsoft will charge more for premium SSD. The charge is more. Okay, I'll show you that charge. You can go and see. See here. Okay, can you see this? IOPS and throughput. Okay, input output per second. Okay, maximum throughput is 25, which is 25 MB actually, and 120 IOPS per second, and 240, 500, 1100. And if I go and see in standard HDD, it will be same. It will be same till 4 TB. Till 4 TB. Till 4 TB, it's only 500 IOPS and 60 throughput, which is 60 MB. And where in this 4 TB, right? If I go and see in premium SSD, 4 TB is having 7,500 IOPS and 250 MB of throughput. In HDD, it's only 500. You can just imagine, right? 500 IOPS and 7,500 IOPS. There is a huge difference, not 2 times or 3 times. It's more than 10, 15 times actually. But anyway, Microsoft will charge more if you configure premium SSD, and the cost will be very, very less if you configure HDD. Okay, so for testing purpose, anyway, we have to choose HDD, and for a better performance, you can use premium SSD. The main example is like when we have to use premium SSD is like a e-commerce website only. If you have an offer season which is going on, then obviously they have to assign premium SSD to their virtual machine, because at that point of time more number of hits will happen, right? So they have to configure premium SSD instead of HDD only. So HDD is like very rare websites. No one is using that website, so there are very limited users who are contacting that website. Maybe our intranet. There is a limit only, right? So if you have 100 employees in your organization, and there is an application which is running in your organization, and that application is intranet only, so only 100 users can hit that application, right? 101 user cannot hit that application, because there are only 100 users in your organization. So in that case, you can use standard HDD, and you can segregate how many users can hit that on a daily basis. So based upon that, you can select HDD. So if you're not sure how many users will access that website, as per my past 10 days or 1 month experience or 1 month data, my users are more than 10,000 or maybe 20,000. So at that point of time, by getting into the assumption, there will be more than 30,000 in next coming days, then you have to use premium SSD only. Else your application will not work. But cost will happen, that's for sure. There will be a huge cost difference. Okay, so for now, I'll just select 128 GB, Just click on OK. So what I did, I just anyway operating system disk will be added by default. Okay, no need to select the operating system disk. I just selected the data disk here. I just selected the data disk, which is 128 GB. I think this will create some confusion. So let me change the size to 256 GB, because 128 GB of capacity will be there for operating system disk as well. So currently my data disk capacity will be 256, and by default, while provisioning my virtual machine, the capacity of the data disk will be 256 GB only. That means after creating my virtual machine, there will be three disks attached to the virtual machine. One is operating system disk, and the second one is temporary disk, and the third one is data disk. And the operating system disk and the data disk will be picked from storage cluster, and my temporary disk will be picked from my physical host, not from the storage cluster. You got it, right? No confusion, I guess.
Yes.
Yep. Cool. Rajesh, so this data disk was created, that is 256 GB, and the other one, like from where we get that, like two disks we get from storage. One is operating system disk, and the other one is temporary disk.
Correct. So by default, if you are not attaching a data disk to a virtual machine, by default, there will be only one operating system disk, which is 127 GB in Windows, and 32 GB in Linux.
Correct.
Okay, and there will be a temporary disk. So temporary disk will vary as per your VM sizes, maybe 16, 32.
Okay, so by default, with every VM, we get two storage. Okay, one is for temporary storage, and another is for
operating system disk. And also, while provisioning your virtual machine, that 127 GB of disk or 127 GB capacity of disk, it will not visible in your portal currently while provisioning. It won't show anything. It won't show anything in your Azure portal. So simply, if you wanted to add a data disk, we can add data disk after creating virtual machine. You can add a data disk while creating a virtual machine. You have two options. After creating your virtual machine, also you can add a data disk. I did it before, right? I already created a virtual machine and added a data disk. Now what I'm doing, I'm attaching a virtual machine while I'm creating while I'm provisioning a virtual machine. Okay. So I'll just go to next part, which is networking. So these are the network components which will be picked from network cluster, like virtual network. Okay, and this virtual network will have some address space. Okay, and from that address space, one subnet will get created, and in this subnet, your IP address will be available, and that IP address will be assigned to your network interface. Okay. So anyway, my inbound port is allowed, which is 3389, and that is publicly. Okay. So now I'll just go to next, which I just wanted to manage it. Okay, managing is like if you wanted to monitor your virtual machine, you have to enable some features while creating your virtual machine. Anyway, after creating also we can enable, but while provisioning also you have an option to enable these features. Okay, boot diagnostics, it will have all your monitoring, like your metrics, CPU, RAM, and any other metrics which are available to that virtual machine. Okay, so OS guest diagnostics. So in each and every virtual machine you have perfmon, right? Perfmon, performance monitor. Okay, performance monitor. So from this tool, so this is in Windows only. So from this tool you can view and you can monitor all your resources, your CPU, your virtual disk, your logical disk, RAM, everything. I'll show you here. Performance monitor and see here, you can monitor everything. So these are the counters where you have to add, and like CPU. If I go and see my CPU, processor. Let me add this total. Done. Line, not line, report. Okay, if you go and see this report, okay, so this is the current process which are running on this virtual machine. Okay, you can see all these counters. Okay, and you can monitor. This is live actually. So in the same way, these counters we can integrate to your Azure portal, and also you can monitor these resources from Azure portal. No need to log into your virtual machine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so in order to do that, you have to enable this OS guest diagnostics. OS guest in the sense, inside your Azure virtual machine, there are few counters, which is performance monitor counters. So you can enable or you can integrate your performance counters from inside your Azure virtual machine to Azure portal. Okay, so just like monitoring this, if I go to my virtual machine, here is my virtual machine, this, you can see this, right? CPU, I can see average, network, I can see disk, everything here. So these are the counters I can see.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the counters. These are live actually. The last 1 hour, 6 hours, 12 hours, everything. I recently created this virtual machine, right? So it starts from December 5th, 3:22 p.m., which is UTC. No data was available previously because this virtual machine was created at this point of time. Okay, fine then.
Okay.
So anyway, all these. Yeah, Sudhanshu, you were saying something?
No, it's okay.
Okay, fine then. So all these counters and all these details will be saved in one storage account. So this is a diagnostic storage account. So later on, if you wanted to view in a report way, or if you wanted to visualize that report, you can go into the storage account and you can visualize everything from here. So here currently what I'm doing, I'm logging into the Azure portal, and then I am seeing all these metrics from here, right? So instead of that, you can just go to that storage account, or you can connect that storage account maybe through some tools, and then you can visualize these as well. So these metrics from other tools as well. So that is the reason all these data will be saved in the storage account, which is diagnostic storage account. Okay. So this, and I'll just click on review and create. Here, it will give you the cost. You can see 129 rupees per hour. So if I simply create this virtual machine, okay, if I simply create this virtual machine, and if after using some 10 minutes or maybe after using 20 minutes, if I delete it, so I'll charge around 20 or 25 rupees, not more than that. But as per the VM size billing, it's 96,000 per month. That means 96,000 I'll charge if I continuously use my virtual machine for 30 days, daily 24 hours.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe this is a free trial, right? So that is the reason we are getting some issues. It says like maximum allowed is only 4 cores, and due to that we are unable to provision a virtual machine. It says like maximum allowed 4, current in use 0, additional request is 8. There is a limitation. In free trial we have a limitation, so we cannot create high-end virtual machine. So that is the reason it is getting failed.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. It's 10:30, right? Okay. Sudhanshu and Amit will just stop here. Anyway, we'll discuss how to provision virtual machine tomorrow. I'll just show you, because currently I think I just provided you the details regarding compute, storage, and the network cluster, right? So if you have any doubts, you can just let me know now. Else you can just let me know tomorrow in the other session as well. Any doubts, please?
So, sorry, Rajesh, because I just joined this session. I'm not aware of the structure of the course, because my background is I'm a mobile architect in Capgemini. So,
Okay.
in which part, this is administration part, right? So, are we going to cover DevOps part, or what parts we are going to cover under this course? So, you can just
Do you have my
give me
course
a.
content? Do you have my
No,
course
no, no.
content?
No. I just joined the session. I
Uh,
don't have any information. Yeah.
okay. Let me show you my course content first.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my course content. Okay. So first, I'll just give you introduction to Azure, what all resources are available,
Uh-huh.
and what are the benefits you'll get from each and every resource. And also, I'll just show you how to manage these resources from Azure portal, Azure PowerShell, and overview of Azure Resource Manager as well. And next is implementing network, Azure network, and creating a virtual machine and creating a virtual network and any other network components. Okay, and implementing resource manager virtual machine as well, planning to create, resize, downgrade, and upgrade your virtual machine, and monitoring. And this is the first three modules will be covered to provision resources, and how many
Okay.
ways do we have to provision resources and different ways to provision resources. Because as of
Okay.
now in market, no one is provisioning resources through Azure portal. They have their own idea and they have their own way to provision, like automation, and also through Azure DevOps, like continuous integration and continuous deployment based upon the change. Okay. And the next part is
Mm-hmm.
storage services. Okay, I'll just cover about storage
Mm-hmm.
services, which is storage account and the data disk and the managed disk and other ADLS data lake stores, and what is the difference between ADLS and storage account. So these data services, database services, and the data services I'll be covering in it, and also the SQL database. SQL database. Now we are going into PaaS component, which is platform as a service. Okay, and then design and deploying ARM templates. Like I said, the first is like deploying your Azure resources through Azure portal. Now ARM template, which is Azure Resource Manager template. So by default, Microsoft Azure has provided some templates. So that are pre-configured. It's completely pre-configured. Simply you have to select that template and deploy. That's it. So if you wanted to customize, you can customize as per your requirement. Then you have to save it and then deploy. But by
Mm-hmm.
default, it is pre-configured only. Okay, I'll show you how to provision resources through ARM templates and what all ARM templates which are available and how to customize it as well. Okay, so and
And
role-based access
does that
control.
include the deployment pipeline and all that concepts?
Correct.
Is that
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
Uh-huh.
also role-based access control. Role-based access control. So before we start this session, I have provided you owner permission, right? Okay.
Right.
So owner permission, those are by default actually. Okay. So if you go and see here, if I wanted to provide a permission on this resource group, okay, if I go to access control and if I click on add, okay, so these roles are default, inbuilt roles. We'll just call it as inbuilt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So owner permission, if you see, lets you manage everything, including access to resource. So, but
Right.
still, if you wanted to customize it, so if you want to customize it, like you wanted to create a role for a team, they want to create only virtual machine. That means they have to create only virtual machine, not other resources. But that role is not available in Microsoft Azure. You can customize it. That means you can create a custom role, and how to create and
Mm-hmm.
what all components we have to create that custom role. I'll show you how to do that. That is very important because these are inbuilt roles. Because there are many
Mm-hmm.
cases there is a team, they'll use only virtual machine, not other storage devices or not SQL databases. So there is no use to provide permission to create SQL databases and SQL warehouses to them, because if they simply create a SQL database, that will charge, right? So in order to restrict that, we can customize our role, and then we can assign that role to that particular team. That means the team can create only virtual machine in that particular resource group. They
Okay.
cannot create any other resource group and any other resource in that. So this is like a security. You are securing your resource group and you are securing your subscription for a from the cost point of view. Okay, so that I'll
Okay.
cover. And the next is implementing an Azure automation. Implementing Azure automation in the sense like how to start your virtual machine. Yesterday we had a discussion regarding this actually. So if you want to have your virtual machine, or if you want to have your SQL data warehouse or Answer service or any other service where we can stop and pause it. So if you have a requirement to start your virtual machine only from Monday to Friday, and if you want to shut down that virtual machine on Saturday morning, we can automate that. We can create a schedule. So we can, by using Azure automation account and by using Azure runbooks, automation runbooks, you can schedule that. So on every Saturday, your virtual machine will shut down, and Monday morning or maybe on Sunday night, your virtual machine will start. So these kind of
Okay.
automation, I'll show you how to do that from Azure automation and from Azure runbooks as well. And the last module will be resource provision through Terraform. I think you are aware of Terraform, I guess, right? Because as you are using DevOps, are you aware of Terraform?
Rajesh, no, I'm not using the
Fine.
DevOps. Yeah.
No problem. See, Terraform is a tool actually. So that is a third-party tool which has it's a HashiCorp tool. So Terraform is a tool where we can manage and you can deploy and you can delete your resources through Azure DevOps. No need to log into Azure portal. Okay. No need to create your virtual machine or create any of the resources from Azure portal. So simply we have to log into Azure DevOps. Okay. But before that, we have to prepare our configuration files. I'll show you how to prepare that. So for each and every resource, currently, if you see this, the virtual machine, what we are trying to provision, right? So this virtual machine will be having a configuration file. So in that configuration file, virtual machine name and its region and resource group will be declared, and network interface, all these resources. Each and every resource configuration has to be written manually, or maybe it will be available from Terraform website. Okay, so by using that configuration file, you can provision your resources in Azure portal by using continuous integration, continuous deployment. That means, okay, so not only provisioning, you can upgrade and you can downgrade as well. Like in CI/CD part, continuous integration is like if you get a change from a user, developer. See, here is like Azure admin and Azure developer, right? Azure admin role is to provision resources and to manage resources. Developer role is to use that resource, right? The Azure admin will simply provision the resources, but the actual user will be developer, right? So currently the developer is using your virtual machine. Okay. So if he want to upgrade the virtual machine, he is dependent on you. So he has to send out an email stating that Amit, please please upgrade my virtual machine from 4 CPU to 8 CPU, or maybe from 8 to 16. That is a dependency, right? Your developer has to send out an email, or your developer has to call you. So in order to avoid that, we'll provide some limited permission to developers. So what developers will do, they will change the code in Azure DevOps and they'll create a pull request. Okay, so once they create a pull request, and the pull request will goes to Azure admin. Okay, so he will get a notification via email and he will verify it, because the actual request was to upgrade the VM size, only upgrade the VM size. So he will verify the changes. Yes, all the changes is correct, and then he will approve it. So once he approve, then automatically build will get triggered, and once the build is get triggered, and it will release the pipeline. So once the pipeline is get released, it will affect in Azure subscription, and it will simply downgrade or upgrade the VM size. This is completely automation. You got it, right? So no need to log into virtual machine, no need to log into Azure portal. So this complete overview from source to the destination, which is from developers to the admin and from Azure admin to the developer, I'll show you. I'll just give you a demo as well. We'll just create an organization in Azure DevOps. We'll create Azure repos. We'll create a project, and we'll create a configuration files. We'll upload and we'll enable continuous integration, continuous deployment, everything.
Okay. So Rajesh, actually, by the end of this course, because we are planning to switch our profiles into Azure area, so because we need something, because we need to show some experience that